put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Viewers, welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. We're coming to you live here from the third floor, Portmore, Lower Scarborough, Tobago. And on the program at this time, we're chatting with Sergeant Joseph Jordan of the TTPS. And this morning, our focus is on the updates from the TTPS and the TTPS on school children and violence. Good morning and welcome to you, Sergeant Jordan.
Good morning to you. Good morning to your viewing and listening audiences. Thanks for having the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Always a pleasure to have you. This morning, you're not in uniform. Why is that?
Right. So recently, I would have changed department. So I am now attached to the 4th Squad Unit in the Tobago Division.
Which means that you are no longer required to wear?
No, it's a plainclothes unit.
Plainclothes unit. You remind me of an officer that I know, I think, was attached to that unit. Anyway, let's move on. Elton Richardson, good morning. Officer Elton Richardson, good morning to you. Let's give us an idea on, we're talking updates here, so give us the updates before we move on.
All right, so we will do our usual updates so we are going to look at our statistical period. So we're going to look at January 1st to September 2nd as relates to serious report crimes. So in the 2 years we are going to compare is 2022 versus 2023. So in 2022, we would have recorded 503 serious report crimes, whilst in 2023, we would have recorded 438, which would have shown a decrease of 16%. The Tobago Division detection rate stands approximately around 35%, which is somewhat very commendable in the sense that over the last few months, having presented this information to the public, we would have seen our statistics, our detection rate in particular, started around 27 to 28%. And a few months later, 3 to 4 months later, we are seeing an increase of 35%. And when we speak about detection, we are talking about crimes that would have been committed, serious reported crimes that would have been committed, and the police were able to solve them. So this is how we can measure our performance. I mean, 35% is, in some contexts, maybe low. However, there are many crimes that you don't get any information, persons are unwilling to come forward. So that in itself creates a challenge. As relates to the murder figure, now we would have recorded 9 murders for the year 2023, whilst for the same period, we would have only recorded 4. And it is unfortunate.
Same period last year?
Yes, this is the same period that we are comparing. Unfortunately, those one murder, one too many. Agreed. And I still want to extend my condolences to the families who would have lost persons due to these senseless crimes. However, we continue to do what we need to do in order to bring the persons to justice. And out of those 9 murders, we would have been able to solve 3 of them. So the balance remain outstanding, but they are very much active. And I still want to implore the public to communicate or share information with the police through the 555, 800 tips, the homicide division department in Tobago at 635-1649, because murders take a very long time when they're doing the inquiries, and it is something that we do not relent on. We continue to work to ensure that the victim can have, the victim family can have some sort of redress, and the perpetrator don't feel that they can get away with such a gruesome crime.
Out of these 3 crimes that have been solved thus far, how many of them would have been solved as a result of tips coming in from either one of these sources?
Generally, we get information bits and pieces, and the use of technology. Most of the crimes that we actually solve into is through the use of technology, because what we find happening, members of the public are not willing to share information, and certainly we know because of the whole trust issue, persons who may not want to appear before the court or to assist in the inquiry. But there is a serious concern. If something happens to you as an individual, I'm certain that you would want help. And this is where the challenge continue to be in relation to the solving of crimes. But we still continue to ask, if you see something, say something.
All right. All right, and that's the update. That's an update there. Let's switch gears here as we focus a little bit on what's happening within the schools or school children and violence. And I wanted to keep the focus a little bit more on drug use in
Yes.
school. Talk to us this morning. Let me talk about drug use in school. How are they coming into the schools with it? How is it being detected?
Right. So we are into the second week of school. We are also, there are students who have left primary school and now going into the secondary school environment, which you're moving from, or you're moving into a more mature environment where there is greater influence in many aspects, greater peer pressure. You want to be part of this. There are sporting things, sporting activities. There are social groups you like to be. And these things come sometimes with risk and unfortunate instances. What have drawn us to this topic this week is one where we had a report that is actively being investigated, where a student of a school came home and sometime later fell off the home balcony. Initially, it was considered a suicide attempt, but due to further investigation, it was understood that this child was given brownies at school and came home and was hallucinating. So probably they think they were walking in a space that doesn't exist. So that person has some injuries. So this is where this has caused us to go along the line of drug use. Now, the truth be told, many of us are, when we are offered things that we may accept.
Yes.
So we might have a discussion, hey, I have some brownies home, you're going to try some, so I'm going to bring some for you tomorrow, and persons may agree. But the drawback to that is their drugs affect persons differently. So you may have a brownie, nothing happens to you. Your other friend may have one and start to do things that is uncharacteristic of them. So accepting things from persons, drink, food, you must be very particular and do not engage yourself in drugs that are not prescribed to you by a doctor. It's one of the simplest ways to safeguard yourself when it comes to any sort of drug, because we have our gateway drugs. We start with our cigarettes, we start with our alcohol, and therefore we build on that. So we might graduate to marijuana, we may graduate on a combination of drinking, because alcohol use of itself is a very potent destructive aspect of our society, because persons sometimes mix their drinks, and that is what becomes very challenging in their state of alcoholism. So you might ask them what they drink and they can't tell you, because I drink this and I drink that, and
then I combined these.
So inside that you having a raging storm, because there are so many, as we say, different spirits, quantity, because I mean,
go ahead.
because you're talking about a beer, then you might move to a wine, a rum, a whiskey, and all these things. So you have all these things going on inside of you, and clearly it's going to have an impact on you. And then you may decide to smoke a weed, and the issues continue. So children are exposed to these things. Now, brownies in particular, coming back to the issue of the brownies, many of these times, these things may be prepared by adults.
Yes.
And given to their, and they may give it them, or they might have it there, and the child might think it fit. They make a little piece for my friends and them. Or you would have advertised some brownies home, I will bring some for you all. And person will try these things, and then the impact on them is not the impact that we may wish for. It is very difficult for you to consume something, whether by smoking it, drinking it, and you have a gap in your memory. You wake up and then it's like, I don't know what happened for the last 4 or 5 hours. So a whole few hours of your life just
you cannot account
missing.
for. Very, very quickly here, we need to go back to it seems as though we need to go back to the days of educating our children or training our children to not eat from strangers.
Right.
Eat what I put in your kit.
Certainly.
I grew up on eat what your parents gave you. There was no sharing of food or drink or snacks in my day.
Yeah.
Okay, and we probably need to go back to those days. In this particular instance, was the giver of the brownie aware that the brownie may have been spiked or laced?
Well, as I said, it's an active investigation, but I would have
So we can't comment too much on it.
So I
Granted.
would have just brought the
Scenario.
example
Right.
of sometimes these discussions take place prior to the consumption. So more than likely you might have been aware that this is brownie. And what is interesting with these type of drugs?
No, the thing is, Sergeant Jordan, there's brownies and then there
And there's
brownies. Okay, so you got to know which brownie is the brownie.
And that's the point was coming to. These things vary in potency because the type of marijuana that may be placed in it could be a synthetic one. It could have a number of variation, and some of the persons who uses these marijuana content, they are unaware as to what the content is, and it may be more potent than others. So do not take things from strangers that you're unaware of. And I would go a little further. If somebody is my friend, they would not give me something that is going to cause me harm.
True, but you know, we're living in an era where if ever this verse meant anything, it means it now. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, and they do foolish things.
Certainly.
And not saying here that they may not care about the friend, but I just want my friend to try it.
We all would have had that experience as young persons. But parents, we need to be aware as to what our children are doing. And observation, when children return from school or return from social events, parties, look at them. Because if you are drunk, you would see that they are drunk. If you are behaving in a strange way, it may not be alcohol, it might be some other drug. So parents need to be particular attention to their children, especially when returning home. We cannot take it for granted that, yes, the child might be about 16, 17, and they might be in a higher upper 6 and all these things, but the impact on these drugs can devastate their life. And further, what about you becoming caught up with the law?
Yes.
Destroys your future, right? So we employ our parents, our teachers, our social worker. Let us pay attention to our children. If they appear to be off track, let's bring them back on track with the necessary intervention. While the police, we will continue to do our part because we will have our programs, because we have the child protection unit going out, having a discussion. We have the police, the community policing unit doing their thing. We have instances where schools and other agencies would make that call for a drug display to come and speak about the different types of drugs. Those services are available from the police service, and we ask person get in contact with us so that we can reach out there. Whilst we are doing our thing, we want you all to be aware, and we want you all to also share in the good things that the police service can offer to preserve and protect our young people and the society at large.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Sergeant Joseph Jordan. Parents, put your picnic, sit down and talk to them about drug use. Speak to them, have the conversation, let them eat. If you're giving them a breakfast or lunch in their kit, let them eat what is given to them. There should be no sharing of food. We've got to go back to those days. No sharing of food, drink, or snack. Eat where your parents put. Okay? Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good day.
He's ready to say afternoon. I tell you, you've probably been working for some hours now. It's still morning here, viewers. It's still morning on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Thank you again, Sergeant Joseph Jordan, for joining us for this segment. Viewers, lots more coming up this morning. In fact, when we come back from the break this morning, we will be chatting with Dr. Sheila Waldron Joseph. So share the live, share the live, share the live.